Nagrywam na tym komputerze. Dobra, już chyba mam. Dobry wieczór, panowie. I panie, o, cześć Martusia. Chyba jedynym takim rodzyneczkiem dzisiaj jesteś. Uh, Joshua, few words for the entry, and some words about you, and we will start, okay?
Yeah,
These few words
sounds
will
good.
be in Polish because we are in Poland. Most of us. Um, Kochani, dobry wieczór. Witam wszystkich na degustacji Worthy Park. Z naszym gościem specjalnym dzisiaj jest Joshua Singh, z którym ja w zasadzie rozmawiałem 4 lata już, żeby tą dzisiejszą degustację przeprowadzić. Natomiast tak jak gdzieś tam pisałem albo w poście, albo w mailu, że rozmijały się nasze kalendarze, natomiast głównie przeze mnie, bo za każdym razem jak widzieliśmy się z Joshuą na którymkolwiek festiwalu, było Joshua, zróbmy degustację. Okej, zróbmy degustację. Okej. I za każdym razem było okej. Więc w zasadzie mogliśmy zrobić już dawno temu. Ale tak jak też wspominałem, pewne okoliczności uniemożliwiły to zrobienia tego wcześniej i dlatego widzimy się dzisiaj. Więc bardzo, bardzo się cieszę, że się w końcu spotkaliśmy. Joshua jest jednym z moich najsympatyczniejszych osób pracujących w branży rumowej. Jest mega zajęty, ma pewne wyobrażenie o tym, jak chce prowadzić swój biznes na kilka lat do przodu. I to są te momenty, w których jak my coś próbujemy, bo coś wychodzi, to Joshua już o tym parę lat wcześniej pomyślał, tak? Więc może dzisiaj zapytacie go, jakie ma plany na za 5 lat, co zabutelkuje, albo jakie rzeczy w ogóle będą wymyślane przez, e, przez branżę rumową. Dlatego tak, zaczniemy. Ja dłużej nie przyciągam, mamy 20, jesteśmy w dosyć fajnym czasie, więc zaczniemy. Joshua zaraz nam przedstawi kolejność. Ona wynika oczywiście też z prezentacji. Na pewno ustawił, bo o tym rozmawialiśmy, ustawił rumy kaskadowo od najłagodniejszych do najbardziej intensywnych. Daiquiri, mówiłem wam, że jest nieobowiązkowe. Kto ma ochotę sobie zrobi, kto nie. Gdzieś słyszę jakiś shaker już biega. I to jest to. Co jeszcze? Joshua zapowiedział, że coś oficjalna, czyli czas prezentacji obliczył na jakieś 1,5 do 2 godzin, w zależności od tego, jak dużo albo jak mało pytań będzie. Więc zacznijmy. OK, Joshua, this is your turn. Tell us everything about you, your history, project, your plans, everything you can.
Yeah.
But remember, this is recording now.
And the confidential things.
Yeah. And we have also live streaming on Facebook. So remember about that. If you want to tell us something special, you can stay with us on after. Okay?
Okay, good.
So let's start.
I'll watch my words and don't tell you too many secrets then. Guys, thank you for coming. Chris, thank you for having me. Thank you for the presentation. I hope you said something intelligent because I have no idea what you're saying. So if he was making bad jokes about me, I hope you guys will tell me. Guys, my name is Joshua. I am one of the founders and one of the owners of a Danish company called 1423. And we are a rum company. And one of the things that we do is that we do European import and imports to parts of Asia for the Jamaican distillery Worthy Park, which is going to be our focus for today. If you have any questions during the tasting, put them in the chat. Then I'm sure Chris will catch us up on it or stop me when I'm talking if it's something relevant to what we are in the middle of discussing or showing. I am going to share my screen with you soon and put up a presentation. So you don't get to look at my pretty face all the evening. You get to look at some pretty pictures from Jamaica instead, and some education as well. So you can learn more about what Jamaica is, but of course, primarily what is Worthy Park and what makes Worthy Park special. Chris has chosen 8 rum together with the guys from the last port, and I would say you're in for quite a treat today, because looking at the selection, you would actually see that 5 of them are limited editions. Some of them are long gone, and you'd need a little bit of luck to find them in a shop anywhere. But what Chris doesn't know is actually that without him knowing it, where he thought it was 5 limited editions, then I would actually go as far as to say actually 7 of these are limited editions. And you will learn why very, very soon when we go and dig deeper into the presentation of what I have to show you here tonight. But guys, get some water, make sure you have clean glasses. We have 8 rums to try, and I would also always suggest get a little bit of water in between. If you only have 1 glass, make sure you wash it in between every new drink. And remember, one of these is 40%, then we have one that is 45, but the rest are 50% or above. So take it easy. There's going to be quite a lot of alcohol this evening. And if you're anything like me, then you probably have to work again tomorrow. So don't drink too much. Then it's better to save a little bit for tomorrow. But guys, are you ready? Then we'll jump into it. Cool. Let's see. Oh, Chris, I am not allowed to share.
Yeah, okay. Give me a second. Remember, Joshua, that you have to give us back this host later, because if you quit, you end all this meeting.
Okay.
Remember that.
I try not to quit, and I put in the charger for my computer, so don't worry.
Okay.
Here we go. See, we can get it up into full screen. Great. So, guys, I hope all of you can see it now. Otherwise, let me know if it's not sharing yet for all of you. Good.
Yeah,
It's okay.
So, guys, welcome to Jamaica and welcome to Worthy Park. Now, I traveled to Jamaica for the first time 10 years ago, where I spent a month on the island. I went there primarily actually to go there on holiday. But while I was there, of course, I tried to get to see all of the distilleries and explore the island, learn about Jamaican culture, eat all of their food, and try and drink all the rum they had on island. I failed, obviously. There's still a little bit left after I've been there. But today we're going to speak about basically what I would always call my favorite distillery. We're going to speak about Worthy Park. I went there 10 years ago in my last week on the island. And I had, I would say, the greatest experience on a distillery that I've ever had. I was one of the first tours they did. They had just built their visitor center. And if you know a little bit about Worthy Park, you might know San Kong or Alexander Kong. He had only just joined the distillery 2-3 months before I started, and I was actually the first guest he ever showed around there. It is one of the most beautiful places on earth, and when I came there, it was like coming home to family. I was treated so very, very well. It was an amazing tour, and I would always recommend anybody that if they ever want to go see a distillery, this is where you want to go, because it is located in one of the most beautiful spots in the world. But guys, let's jump into it. Doing this tasting, I'm not only going to tell you about Worthy Park, we'll speak just a little bit about Jamaican culture as well, because to understand Jamaican rum, you need to understand Jamaica as well. Obviously, that is best done if you go to the island, but I'm going to try and take you there, at least for this evening. And hopefully we can get a little sun shining through the computer as well, because I don't know Poland is not that far from Denmark, and outside of my window, it's frost and snow is falling. So we need a little bit of sunshine. We'll start with the Jamaican flag. You probably all know it. Otherwise, if you haven't been to Jamaica, your thoughts about Jamaica is probably, well, Rastafaris, dreadlocks, weed, and it's not far off. There's a lot of people with dreadlocks in Jamaica, of course. There's a lot of weed everywhere. You smell it on the street all the time. And of course, you probably also hear the Jamaican accent in your ears. But the flag is also to do about the culture because it speaks to the people. Actually, the golden color here, or the yellow color, signifies the sun and the lights in the people and around us. The green is for the actual island and the nature, and the black is for the power of the people of the island. But while you think about the flag, we'll speak a little bit more about where we're located. You probably know the Caribbean. We are actually about 8,900 kilometers from Warsaw. I think it was 8,910 exactly from the center of Warsaw to the center of Iwaton, which is the city that is very, very close and located right next to the distillery. It is the largest English-speaking country in the Caribbean. In total, there's about 2.7 million people. So it's not a large country by far, not compared to Poland, which is, I think, around 40 million, if I'm right, Chris. Yeah. Or even Denmark, where I am, where we are like close to 6 million. But it is really an outstanding island. Now, one thing that is important for tonight is that we have 8 rums. So before I start digging into the distillery and the sugar factory and the fields and Jamaica in general, we are going to start with some rum to get the evening started. We'll start off with Rum Bar Gold. You should all have it. I don't know how are the samples delivered, Chris?
Once again?
How are the samples delivered? How did they receive them? Small bottles or?
Oh, yeah, small bottles, 25 milliliters.
Yeah, cool, great. So we're going to start off with Rum Bar Gold, which is one of the oldest products from the distillery. It was launched back in 2014. The version you have here is a minimum of 4 years, all aged in ex-American white oak or ex-bourbon barrels. It is 100% pot still, no sugar added. We add a little caramel for consistency, but that's it. That doesn't give any flavor at all. It's based on a mark called WPL, which stands for Worthy Park Light. We produce several different of what we call marks at the distillery, and each mark is characterized by the number of esters, or the number, you could call it the number of flavors, how heavy it is, how much taste it has. But VPL is our, I would say, our most important mark, and it covers around almost 90% of our production. It is also the primary rum that we use in our blends. It's the primary rum that we age, and it's also the primary mark, actually, that we are going to be drinking this evening, though we'll have it in a few different ways. When you drink it, I think you should actually compare it a little bit with our Rum Bar White Overproof. It is the oldest we have done, or, well, our longest living bottle, you could say, because we launched it in 2007. It's one of our flagship rums. It's unaged. It's a blend of 3 different marks that we make, the VPL, VPM, and VPH. Stands for Worthy Park Light, Worthy Park Medium, and Worthy Park Heavy. It's bottled at 63%. And I would say this is what you could call Jamaican culture in a bottle. If you ever get to go to the island, you will notice that basically 90% of all rum that is drunk on the island is unaged. It's white and it's always overproof, always 63%. Whether it's going to be Rum Bar, it will be Ray and Nephew, it will be J&B, it might even be Rum Fire if you manage to find that. But it's always the high proof and unaged. It's used in every piece of your life. It is used As a cocktail, it is used to drink neat. It is used for your kids. If you are a kid and you have a cold, your mom will come and rub it on your chest to make you feel better. If your toothaches, she'll put it on her finger and put it up under your gums to make your teeth not hurt. When you move into a new house, you bring a bottle with you and you put a little bit in each corner of the house to scare away the angry demons that might have been there from the past. When it's Christmas time, you add it in your Christmas cake. If you have a barbecue, you add some of this in your marinade for your meat. But most of all, of course, we drink it. And they say that Jamaica is the country in the world with the most bars per capita. And after been there many times, I would agree, because you can't turn a corner and you won't see another bar. But a bar in Jamaica is a little bit different from what we see in Poland or what we see here in Denmark or what we see in Europe in general. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can literally just be an old shack by the side of the street. Or it could just be, I have a table and I'll place it in my front garden, put a bottle of rum. Now I have a bar. But how do they drink it? Well, they drink it as it is. Some people will drink it straight. Others will mix it with whatever they have. It might be just a splash of water. It might be Coke, or it could be any fruit juice, soda, Red Bull, whatever you have. And a lot of people will drink it with a special Jamaican soda made from grapefruits that they call ting. It is sour and sweet at the same time. And this grapefruit sourness really, really works well with the flavor of the rum. But guys, enjoy the rum. Make sure to take small sips, especially of the overproof when you get to it. And while you enjoy those, I'm going to dig deeper into what is actually Worthy Park. Now, Worthy Park itself, the estate or the location, can be traced back to 1670. In 1670, the estate was founded when the English king gave a piece of land in the center of Jamaica to Lieutenant Francis Price. Now, Francis Price was an officer in the king's army, and he was given this piece of land for his help when the king actually kicked out the Spanish army from Jamaica. Now, in 1720, we have records of sugar being planted at the estate, and the sugar farming started, or the cane farming started to produce the sugar. We can trace from our old records that rum production was documented in 1741, which actually makes us our oldest distillery on the island. To compare it a little bit, a distillery like Appleton can trace their history back to 1749, or Hampton can trace it back to 1753. So we beat the others by at least 8 years, which is, of course, something we are very proud of. The next milestone in the distillery comes in 1918, when the current family, the Clark family, takes over the distillery. It is still family-owned distillery today. It's a local Jamaican family. They've owned it actually this year for 105 years, and it is something that we're quite proud of, that it still stays in the family and still stays in Jamaican ownership, where a lot of distilleries from around the Caribbean are being taken over by bigger corporations or European or American corporations. Now, in 1962, something a little more depressing happens. There is, after the 40s and the Second World War, there's a big overproduction of rum in Jamaica, and not enough of the Jamaican rum is actually exported. So, in cooperation in Jamaica with what is called the Spirits Pool Association, this is a government entity where all the distilleries also have a place. The government went in and asked the different distilleries around the island if somebody would consider to close their doors so they could bring back this overproduction of rum. Worthy Park was one of the distilleries that agreed, because for Worthy Park, the sugar industry and the sugar factory had always been more important. So basically, they took the key and locked the door to the distillery and closed it down. Then fast forward to 2005, and then we see Gordon Clark. Gordon Clark is the current managing director or CEO of the distillery. And Gordon saw what was happening in the world of spirits. he saw that rum was slowly but surely becoming more and more popular out in the world, and he decided to dust off that key and go back and unlock the door to the distillery. Now, the distillery that existed back in 62 was quite small, so instead of just starting up operations there again, he decided to build a brand new state-of-the-art distillery, and then Worthy Park returned to producing rum in 2005 with the first introduction of the rum bar overproof that you just tried in 2007. Now, to go through Worthy Park and the estate itself, we need to speak about three different things. We need to talk about Worthy Park as a sugarcane farm. We need to talk about it as a sugar factory. And we need to talk about it as a distillery. And I'm going to try and cover every single part here. Because what is important is that when we talk about Worthy Park, we talk about what we call a single estate. And a single estate is characterized by producing everything within the four walls of the company. And for Worthy Park, that means everything from grass to glass, or from the sugarcane field, bottle we're drinking. So we're going to try and cover everything today to give you a better experience about what Worthy Park actually is. So in Jamaica, this is the island. We took a little bit of a look on the Caribbean before. We're going to zoom in a little bit better now to understand how Jamaica actually looks. Now, we're based right in the center of the Caribbean Ocean, and we are an island. We are a very green island with mountains in the middle and amazing beaches surrounding the island. In total, we have 6 distilleries. We have up in the northwest, we have Hampton and we have Long Pond. Then further down south, we first meet Appleton Estate. And if we go all down south, we have New Yarmouth and we have Clarendon Distillery or the Money Musk Sugar Factory. Worthy Park Estate is located slightly different. We are directly in the center of the island. And actually, we're going to speak a little bit more about our location and what actually makes our location special compared to some of the other distilleries. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. Now, Worthy Park, in our, well, you could say our distillery or our factory is based in the center of the island. We are surrounded by mountains to all sides of us, and we are located in what is called the Luidas Vale. We'll zoom in a little bit further, and then you can actually see most of the estate right here. You have the sugar factory down here to the south. You have the sugar backing up to the north with the main offices right next to it. And then the actual distillery up to the far, far north in the top of the picture. And actually, if we look right here in the middle of the picture, I put in a few small blue circles, if you can see them. This is actually where most of Worthy Park Estate employees live, because most of both the management and the employees, they all live and work at the distillery. So if you get a job at the distillery, you might be lucky to also get a house there. Now, I've visited several of these houses, and I'd love to live there myself. It is an amazing location. It's beautiful nature everywhere around. It's stunning views of the mountains surrounded by the sugarcane fields. It's quite an experience. Now, this is how it looks, the valley itself. If we take an actual picture and not just a Google Maps view, then this is the view you have from the mountains into the valley. And I remember when I came up there the first time, I had hired a driver in the city of Ocho Rios, which is north of the distillery. And the driver told me, like, we can get to the distillery in 45 minutes if we take the highway. But the highway costs money. We can take the nice route, which is an hour and a half, and you get to see some of Jamaica. So of course, I took the good route, the long route, and it was an outstanding trip. Most of the trip goes through very, very small mountain roads that goes, like that, in between hills, in between trees, in between what I would almost call jungle. But every now and then, if there was ever inside of the mountains or between the trees, if you found a small piece of land, 10 by 10 meters, you would actually see that it would have been cultivated in, and it would be a small field of sugarcane. So even up high in the mountains, just on a small piece of land the size of my living room, you could actually find a small field of sugarcane. Now, the most amazing thing is that once you drive up into the mountains, some of these trees, they actually block out the sun. And this is where I saw one of the most beautiful sights you can imagine, because all of a sudden, while driving in the shade, you'll see at the end of the road, like the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you get out there, what you have is a view directly out where you see the full valley from top of the mountain, and you just get an extraordinary view. And with the distillery, the sugar factory, everything right down in the center of that valley. It is a unique experience, and pictures like this, it doesn't do it justice. It's something you really have to see in person. This is how the fields look when we take a closer look. And what you can see here is machine harvesting. Now, we have at Worthy Park Estate today around 10,000 acres of farmland. Now, most of the year, 6,000 acres of these are planted with sugarcane. But our fields, because we are based in the mountains, very few of our fields actually look like this. We can only harvest about 10% of the fields with machine, but we also prefer to do it in a different way. Because most of our fields, they look like this. And if we had put a machine up this hill, it would have tipped over quite quickly. Cane, it doesn't look heavy, but when you collect a lot of it and put it up, it does become heavy. So most of the cane we have is actually harvested by hand, which is a very, very different thing. It looks more like this. It's machetes, it's outside 30 degrees. It's tough work, but this is also a work that actually keep hundreds of people employed, which is very, very important. Now, have we chosen or have we had the opportunity to only use machines, we would have to basically put 300 people out of a job. So by doing it only by hand, you keep a lot of people employed, which is very, very good, and good for the surrounding villages. It's good for the country in general. Now, guys, I know you might be getting thirsty, so I'm going to give you another rum before we continue more with the cane. But let me hear your voices out there. What did you think about the first two rum? Don't be shy, guys.
Pretty nice.
I actually don't have any of tonight's rum too with me because they are in Poland and I'm in London. So I start with Daiquirion WPE and I'll proceed to the aged Jamaica collection. I think 2014 different casks. So I'm going different route, but I will definitely catch up around Christmas. Good. But I know well Rumbar Gold and remember Rumbar Overproof. Also, yeah. I had a reflection when you were saying about the cane harvesting that you actually share that with Madeira and almost only Madeira, I guess, and probably Haiti.
Say that again, Pavel, the last part.
Well, like Madeira and Haiti are probably one of the ones for very few places that also do harvesting of cane by hand.
Yes, well, actually, there are quite a few places that is doing it. Even in Dominican Republic, the largest distillery in Dominican Republic, they also do it by hand. And there are quite a few sugar producers or cane producers that is doing it by hand, and some of them. Pavel, take your sound off, please.
Apologies.
Or stop doing dishes. There are actually quite a few other sugar producers out there that do it by hand, and some of them have the opportunity to do it with machines. But the thing about you need to remember is that we are in a part of the world where unemployment is bigger and the finances or economy is not that good. And most of these sugar producers, if they decided to do it with machine, they would only need maybe 5% of the field workers. compared to if you do it by hand. So if you decided to put in machines, you would actually have to fire hundreds of people at many, many different sugar factories. So it's also, for some of these sugar producers or cane producers, it's also a matter about social responsibility, actually, to not use machines. Because if you do it, it would be across the Caribbean, thousands and thousands of people that would be out of a job. So in many cases, it is actually more beneficial for the country to not do it by machine. There is also the question about actually when you do it with a machine, when that cuts the cane, it cuts it like 30 centimeters from the ground. Whereas if you do it by the machete and a person doing it, he gets all the way down and get all of the cane with him. So you actually also have a better productivity and a much larger yield at the end by doing it by hand. So there are several benefits to doing it like that. But guys, we have a rum that we need to drink. We spoke a little bit about this, what it is meant to be a single estate. So I think it's only fitting that we're going to try the single estate reserve. I would call this one of the flagship bottles of the brand.
Sure, but I think Eric wanted to tell something, but
yeah, go on.
No, just ask about the comment on the previous rums that we had.
We had
so especially on a rum bar gold. For me, it was surprising the difference between the nose and the palate, that it was pretty dry. I would say that on the nose it's quite sweet, fruity, and then again when you taste it, it was good, but it was dry, surprisingly to me.
Yeah, well, I'd say that most rum from Jamaica I would call dry, but quite fruity, as you also picked up in the nose. And when you smell Jamaican rum, one thing that always comes through, at least for me, is tropical fruits. Like specifically banana when it comes to Worthy Park, but also things like mango, papaya, pineapple, things like that. And when you get that nose, you also get that feeling that it's going to be sweet. Because when you smell a pineapple, it tells your mind as well, this is sweet. So I think it's a little bit about the mind playing you a trick there as well. But it is quite dry, even though you get some of the fruity notes and small hints of vanilla, even, I would say, that comes from the ex-bourbon barrels.
Mm. But that was my second thought, that perhaps indeed the mixture of an American white oak, would a white oak give the bitterness? Because that's what usually happens also for whiskey if you use it. While bourbon, I would expect this to give some vanilla and some cream. But then again, white oak, the bitterness and dryness can come from it.
So all bourbon barrels are basically per standard made from American white oak, and all the barrels, well, not all the barrels, because we do use some other barrels for special products, limited products that we're also going to try later. But other than that, everything is ex-bourbon barrels made from American white oak.
So it's not on virgin oak.
No, not virgin oak.
Okay.
Always ex-bourbon made from American white oak. We don't use virgin oak at the distillery. And there are several reasons why. One of the reasons why ex-bourbon barrels is the primary thing, both in the whiskey industry and in the rum industry, is a matter about costs. Every distillery in the world outside of the US is very, very happy about the bourbon industry. And especially when they made the law many years ago that you could only use the barrel once, because a barrel has much, much more life in it after that. But it meant instead of paying $300-400 per barrel, that now the whiskey and the rum industry, we could buy barrels for $60 if we bought enough. And when you are a distillery and you need barrels all the time and you need more and more, it's quite a lot of money you can save it that way. So that is why it's primarily ex-bourbon.
Do you have a backup plan for this talk about America, like allowing second fill non-virgin barrels basically for bourbon. So suddenly you'll be cut out of bourbon barrels. So do you have a backup plan?
No, I don't think anybody will be cut off in the sense, even though they can start to use it twice. What we need to remember is as well that using it once or twice, it also depends on how many years it's used the first time or the second time. Because it's not a question about how many times it's used, it's more a question about for how many years it's been used. Because a barrel that has been used for 50 years, that's not going to have a lot of life left in it. But let's say we put in a bourbon and we do that twice and it's been used for a total of 10 years, then there'll still be plenty of life in it. So there are different ways of looking at it. But looking at the ex-bourbon was never the original barrel for aging either rum or whiskey, to be fair. The original barrels was whatever you had on hand. And what was usually used was ex-wine barrels, either from fortified wine or even from red wine. And it was only natural because when the wine was shipped from France, Portugal, Spain, wherever they produced it, then today it's either shipped in bottles or shipped in large containers. But if we go back hundreds of years, it was shipped in the wooden barrels. So what would happen was literally that once you had received your wine, you would empty it out of the barrels, either to drink it or put it in bottles. And then you had an empty barrel. And then you used that barrel to age your whiskey or to age your rum in. So the bourbon barrel only came later when the bourbon industry started booming in the US. So we see more and more distilleries who are playing around with aging in sherry barrels, aging in Oloroso, aging in cognac barrels, brandy barrels, port wine barrels, all these other things. And while some say, well, it's a gimmick and they don't like it, that they feel that the bourbon barrel is the natural way to do it, you need to go further back. And actually, it was the wine barrel that was probably more natural of using.
But was there enough balance between basically the need for barrels in Jamaica and consumption of fortified wine in Jamaica? Wouldn't it be easier to basically make something of the local virgin oak rather than import all the way from Europe?
It could be, but you don't see much fortified wine being drunk in Jamaica, to be fair. You don't see much wine production in Jamaica at all. So that wouldn't make sense. There's not a lot of oak in Jamaica either. So producing barrels there locally would also be very hard. But, there's plenty of, if we go back to the virgin oak, for instance, then of course there's a lot of oak in America and you can get virgin oak barrels produced directly from the large producers in the US. But even me here in Denmark, we have virgin oak produced here in Europe, both from Danish wood, from Spanish wood, from French wood. And there is as well a good industry of barrel producing in Eastern Europe. Countries like Armenia and even Slovakia and Czech Republic, where they have large wine industry as well. There's also cooperages producing barrels from local oak. So there are plenty of options for barrels if we should start to run out of bourbon barrels. But I don't think that is likely because the industry of premium spirit is growing quite rapidly. Not only in rum, we see it in Scotland as well, where more and more distilleries are being built, more and more are expanding. We also see it in the bourbon industry, where more distilleries are coming or expansions are happening. So I don't think we're going to see a shortage of barrels anytime soon. And if we will, I'm sure we're going to find a different way. So I'm not that nervous about that. What did you think of the overproof, Jarek?
It was really nice as well, and indeed quite rich, especially on the nose. Again, so I haven't got a chance because it just arrived before 8 to make a daiquiri based on it, but I'm certainly gonna do.
Good.
I must add that 2 years ago, when I did my first daiquiri rum competition, maybe Joshua, maybe you remember that.
I do.
Your rum bar overproof was on the, I don't remember now, 4th or 5th place of 35 different rums. So in my opinion, it's also perfect to daiquiri. Yeah.
Well, if you've been watching social media, Chris, which I'm sure, well, I know you do, then you've probably seen that, right? What we're drinking today is rum bar overproof, but you might have seen pictures of Worthy Park overproof.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It will be coming in the spring. So there will be another entry to your next competition. And you know, there's a few new origins, and there are more coming there as well. So I'm sure it's going to be a good competition again. I look forward to it for sure. It was very, very fun to follow all throughout the group stages, the semifinals, and the finals. Of course, I'm even more happy that we won in the end, but still, it was a great experience just to follow it as well. And I think it's a great initiative.
Yeah, today early morning I started plan to next daiquiri competition next year. So yeah, I have to start to collect new rums to the competition, and I also talked with Patrick 2 weeks ago, maybe I don't remember,
Yeah.
about your new water park. So yeah, we are waiting for that. Really, really.
I should receive a few bottles in a week or two,
Mhm.
and then a full container will come in the beginning of the new year.
Yeah.
So I hope we'll be able to release it around 1st of March is the goal.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So can't wait. We can't wait.
Well, me neither. Me neither. I really look forward to it. I think the new one is really outstanding. They used a little bit of cane juice distillate into the blend, and it makes the rum, I would say, even more fresh and more fruity. It's really good.
Really perfect, accurate. I can wait. Really, really.
No, me neither. Me neither. It's gonna be good for sure. But yeah, but guys, let's go. Let's get back into the rum. We're gonna pour two more rum actually, so you have a chance to compare them. And while you drink them as well, I'm gonna go on and talk a little bit more about Worthy Park. The first one I think you should pour, and the first one I think you should taste should be the Single Estate. It is what we call one of our flagship bottles because it's one of the most important bottles for us. We launched it in 2017, and one of the ideas behind it was actually specifically the European market. We wanted an aged sipping rum for the markets over here. It is again, it's WPL, Worthy Park Light, aged in aged bourbon, and it's a blend of rums aged between 6 to 10 years. Of course, no sugar added, nothing. It's 100% pure pot still rum. Now, to drink next to it, we're going to take something special because we're going to drink something that was actually only released in Poland. We are going to drink a single cask that was selected by Patrick and Michael from the last port. And it's going to be the 2014 cognac cask. Now, this is the same rum used for the Single Estate, so it's VPL. But this was aged in bourbon first for 5 years, followed by 2 years in cognac barrels, or in a cognac barrel because there's only one. No sugar, of course, and a total of 269 bottles, bottled at cask strength of 63%. This is a unique bottle. I don't even know, Chris, if there's any left in Poland by now. Do you know? We launched it about.
So we should have asked to Patrick. I think with us.
It's still available. I've seen Battle today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we still can buy it.
You still can buy it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well,
how that compares to your like 2014 cognac cask from the green like mixed series? Okay, I need to turn off the blur. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I see it, and I can see the bottle you have in your hand as well. Well, in my opinion, this one is better. But that's my
the same formula, or just like different proportions of aging, or what is the difference between them?
It is a difference in aging. It's a difference in aging. It's also a difference in origin of the cognac. Now, I can't tell you where the cognac barrels come from because we're not allowed to say from the specific producers. But there is a huge difference. And also, another difference is, of course, that all the aging for this one took place in Jamaica, where the other one was aged first in Jamaica, but the cognac aging took place in Denmark. And that gives a rather big difference as well.
It's still really yummy.
It is, definitely. It's rum. Of course it's good. And it's a good brand you're drinking, Pavel, of course. No, but it is, I would say, two very different bottles and different flavors, even though, of course, they have similarities because of the aging and what they've been aged in. Then they are two very different bottles. But guys, have a sip of them, enjoy it, and if you have any questions about them, we'll take them in a little bit. Otherwise, we'll jump in and we'll speak a little bit about the sugar factory. Because now we've harvested the cane, and of course, the next step is to make it first into sugar, and after that, we'll be left with our molasses that we produce our rum from. Now, the view here, I chose this picture because we looked at the timeline earlier, and we saw that sugar cultivation started in 1720. And whereas the sugar factory today is, of course, a little bit modern, this is actually the old water wheel that used to run the sugar factory. So this produced, well, all the power that was needed. And we kept it here for historical reasons. It's a little bit overgrown here, but it gives you an idea about what a historical place it is and also how it used to be here at the estate. Now, the first thing that happens is that after the cane is harvested, it's driven directly to the factory where the truck is weighed. We weigh the truck before and after the cane is unloaded. And we do this because this is a way for us to check, first of all, how much cane is coming from a specific field and how much juice or how much can we actually extract from the cane off that field. So we get a good idea about, is this a good field for the cane harvest or is it a bad field, basically? Now, I've been there in the harvest season. The harvest season at the estate, it lasts from the first Wednesday in January until about the end of July. And all the way during this time, the mountains are filled with huge trucks with cane loaded. And if you remember what I said before, the roads are going like that. And they are very small roads. So they actually have people standing in the corners of the road along the mountain to make sure they can stop the cars coming from the other side if they see one of the trucks coming with cane. Because they take up all of the road. You can't pass them, literally. And especially not when they're turning. And even worse, when they start to come down the mountain. The trucks are so heavy that they don't use the brakes, basically, because the truck is not going to stop that easy. I tried this. I was there in March last year, and it was a crazy trip. And I was there with my business partner, Thomas, and we stopped on the mountain on the side, just where you have the overlook of the valley, to take some pictures. And we got way off the road to make sure there was plenty of space to pass us. But behind us, there were several more cars. And when they saw what we were doing, they tried to do the same. So they stopped their cars and got out of them. But at the same time, a truck was coming down the mountain. And he did not stop at all. He was running with, the horn down. And you could see the people, they were fleeing back to their cars and trying to move them. And it was a crazy sight. And it was quite close, I would say, that he had run one of the cars off the mountain. And he was quite upset, yelling a lot of things out the side of his window. I don't know what he said, and the few words I did understood, I'm not gonna repeat, that's for sure. But it's an amazing view to see these trucks when they come down the mountain filled with cane. But once they've offloaded the cane and it's been weighed, it goes in to the crusher.
A question about the weighting. How big is the spread? You said there are big, better fields and worse fields in terms of like the yield. How big is the spread? Is it like 10% of a difference, 3%, 30%?
It's a great question, Pavel. And to be fair, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't. I think we've talked about the specifics at one point, but I don't remember them. One thing that they do at the estate is that the 10,000 acres they have of farmland, like I said earlier, only around the 6,000, around half of it is planted with cane every season. And what they do is that every time they've used the field a few times, they stop using it, and then they move to another field, and they do this to protect the soil, basically, for the soil to recover, for it to recover minerals and get its life back, basically. So they always let the fields rest sometimes in between, and then they'll come back to it again and sow with new cane and then harvest again. So they'll keep moving around from field to field to make sure that they don't, well, I don't know how to say that in English, but take too much advantage of the soil, basically, and use it too much because it draws out too many minerals. And if you do that, you will have less and less yield over time. But yeah, after the cane is offloaded, it goes into the crusher where the cane is crushed and ripped apart so we can take out all of the juice. So once that's done, this is what's left over of the cane, basically. It's turned into what you could call sawdust, really. But from the sawdust, we get the cane juice. So we're one step closer to the rum. This is where all of the sawdust ends up. It ends up here in a big warehouse where it is actually, it's dried first. And after that, it can be used to fire up. It can run turbines to produce electricity for the factory. So we try to, the whole way through this process, to reuse as much as possible. There's a thing about, in Europe, we talk about organic products. You know, organic is becoming more and more important. We spend more and more money going down to the supermarket to buy organic things because it's better for the environment, better for our health because it's not filled with pesticides or other things that the farmers spray their lands with. In most of the Caribbean, many of the sugar factories or of the sugarcane fields are, by all means, organic all the way through. They're not certified, but for them, you know, it's just good business. They don't use all the crap that we use in the Western world. Here, it's just this is how we do because this is good. That's it. And it's quite fun to think about it that way. That people in other sides of the world, they just do it because it's the best. Whereas we only look at how can we get as much as possible from everything. Now, next step for the juice is that the juice will start to heat it up. Because once we heat it up, we can separate the water. We can evaporate the water so we can get closer to getting sugar. It'll go through the evaporators. And after a while, when we've heated it up, we can start to extract the sugar crystal. Once we've extracted the sugarcane crystals, we'll be left over with molasses. Molasses is what most of us think is the standard for producing rum outside of the old French colonies where they primarily used juice. Then molasses is the thing that we use also in Jamaica primarily. It's a thick, black, dark syrup, basically. And it still has a sugar content of about 50%. But where most people actually expect that, well, molasses should be sweet, then I would say it's actually a lot more bitter in flavor. And it tastes a little bit like raw licorice, if you've ever tried that. So a bitter raw licorice is the general flavor you get there. Now, in the Caribbean, molasses is also used a lot in cooking. I use it as well here at home. I'm lucky enough that I get a steady supply of molasses shipped from Worthy Park. So I use it for baking. I use it for marinades and meat. I use it for all kinds of different things. But the best part of this is, of course, the end product, which is the pure cane sugar. It is amazing to try it because when you try and eat some of the sugar straight from Worthy Park, you can taste that there is a huge difference from the sugar we are used to here in Europe. We all eat the white beet sugar, and it literally has no flavor. It's just sweet. That's it. But if you try sugar from here, you can taste the molasses. You can taste that hint of the licorice in the background. You can taste the grassy nose of the grassy notes of the fresh cane. It's quite unique. And whenever I make a daiquiri, I make my own simple syrup with this sugar. And I promise you that is a better daiquiri in the end. So if you ever get there,
So you
buy
need to
plenty of
wait,
sugar.
Joshua.
Is
So
the
Joshua,
Yep.
you need to tell me where this sugar I can buy. So I will do my own sugar syrup.
One second.
There is commercially available like Wealthy Park sugar, so I guess it's not as cool as the one that Joshua gets, but it might be still better than the one we get from like refined beets. Oh yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Right here. So when we're looking at the sugar industry in Jamaica, and that actually counts for the sugar industry in the whole of the Caribbean, then the sugar industry is slowly dying. I remember that when I was in Jamaica back in 2013, I believe there were 5 or 6 factories in Jamaica. Today, there's only 2 left. And they're dying for several reasons. One of them is that some of the sugar factories are government owned. Some of them are family owned as well, but all of them have been, I would say, rather poorly been maintained through the years. So they're quite old and they're not that efficient anymore. Now, the Clark family in Worthy Park have always invested quite a bit in the sugar factory, which makes it a very, very effective sugar factory. And they've actually, Jamaica won an award. Since 1962, they've won the award every year as the most efficient sugar factory, something that they're quite proud of. But the sugar industry is dying in the Caribbean because one thing is bad maintenance of some of the factories. Another part is beets, basically. That sugar beets that the Americans or the Brazilians or us here in Europe, we have plenty of beets. It can grow everywhere and we can produce lots and lots of sugar from it. So we don't need to ship cane sugar from the other end of the world to get sugar anymore. So that is why it is slowly dying. It's also why you won't find Worthy Park sugar in Europe, because Worthy Park produces enough sugar for the island. So wherever you go into a supermarket in Jamaica, you will find Worthy Park sugar everywhere. But they produce enough for the island. They don't produce enough. If we started to import it to Europe, then they couldn't supply the local market. So I'm not allowed to import their sugar, basically, because for them it's more important to supply the island and make sure they have enough sugar for their own country. I buy a couple of hundred of these every year. I don't eat a couple of hundred myself. I use it at home in my coffee and in my cocktails, and if I bake cakes and things like that. But other than that, we actually use it when we do classes like that. Then we bring Worthy Park molasses, we bring Worthy Park sugar, so you can try it. It's a little difficult when we do it as an online tasting like today. But I promise next time I'm in Poland, I'll bring some with me. So if you find me there, either at a festival or a tasting, try both the molasses and the sugar. And then we use it for, when we go to festivals and shows, so people get a chance to try it, because the sugar is outstanding.
Actually, I just found in the UK it is possible. Like there is one website that still has 3 kilos left, but the
Yep.
problem is delivery is actually 17 pounds. So
Yeah, okay.
I'm still tempted to get some for the bragging rights and maybe to barter with people for some samples.
Well, I know if you know anybody in Czech Republic, then at the webshop called Warehouse One, you can also buy Worthy Park sugar. They should have a little bit in stock as well. We did a special promotion there where at some point where if you bought a specific bottle of Worthy Park rum, you got a bag of sugar. And I know they have a little bit left there as well. But otherwise it's not something that we put up for sale because it doesn't make sense to sell it here. It makes a lot more sense to make sure there's enough sugar for the island instead. but come find me next time you see me. I usually carry the sugar with me when I travel, so people can try it. So, as this is the sugar factory from an overview. And one thing, it is difficult to see from here, but I don't know if you can see my marker from my mouse. But
Yes.
actually, over here in the background behind these buildings, there is a very, very old building. And today it's used more for a little bit of storage for machines. But that is actually where the old distillery was located back before the 60s. I wanted to put in a picture of it in the presentation, Chris, but I was looking through my old pictures and I only had a really shitty picture where you can't really see anything. So you'll have to wait until next time. I'll be going to Jamaica probably within the next 4 or 5 months, then I'll take some new pictures for the presentation.
I can go with you and do all the best pictures, no problem.
Yeah. If you want to go, you'll be more than welcome. We'll see if you can keep up with me in Jamaica. I'm not sure. So, guys, you had rum number 3 and rum number 4 before we started going into the sugar factory. Let me know what you thought about them. I'm very curious to hear what you thought about the single estate and, of course, the Poland exclusive, the cognac cask. So don't be shy, guys.
Yeah, I have to say the Worthy Park single estate reserve was the first rums I had from Jamaica. And that was the first one that started my journey into Jamaica. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was a pleasure to have it today as well. And I tried it for the first time, this Polish version of the last port. And yeah, I would say it was a big punch in the face with a first sip. I had to dilute it a bit with the water, but the very nice flavor. And yeah, I really like it. Really enjoying.
Good. I agree. The first sip from that is a punch in the face. I'd say that before I shipped this cask or these bottles to Poland, I stole 3 bottles for myself, of course, that was left here in Denmark with me. And when I drink the rum like that, I always try, if I have the patience, I'll pour the glass and then I put the glass away for half an hour for it to oxidize, get some oxygen because it helps to open it up. Otherwise, I would do exactly what you did, David, and add just a little bit of water because it helps to give it that to open up and you can taste it even better.
But yeah, we'll have to look it up. The bottle, really nice, and I am really enjoying it.
Good to hear. Any other comments, guys?
Yeah. One word from me. This single estate is more delicate than this cognac finished. It's very light, very, very delicate, very. I feel the vanilla, some vanilla notes, and smell is delicate and the taste is delicate. In this cognac finish, I feel the delicate smell, some grape notes, maybe from this cognac finish, I think. And when I taste it, when I take it to my mouth, it's exploding. It's very sharp and very hard.
Yeah.
It's a very big difference in these 2 rums. Yeah.
It is definitely. And 63% is a lot.
Yeah.
And 63% can be a lot for many people as well. I would do like David, Piotr, and add a little bit of water to it. Get it down to, I would say 52, 55%. There, I think, for me, that is the sweet spot for most rum. It's around these 52, 53, 54%. That's where I feel I get the best experience from most rum.
Yeah.
Cask strength, we do a lot of cask strength versions, both when we do single casks at Worthy Park. I do it in my own SBS, and we do that for rum geeks and rum connoisseurs. People like myself who wants the rough and the raw rum. And we also do it because it gives us the opportunity as a rum drinker to add our own water. So we have the control of saying, does it need a few drops of water or does it not need the water? And then we can add it per our own taste. And that's the beauty about high proof and cask strength sometimes, because like the single estate, this is already diluted 45. We can't bring more alcohol back into it.
Yeah.
We can only bring it down. We can't just bring it up again. Great. But yeah, I enjoy the single estate with its delicate flavors, as you said as well.
Yeah.
It's my own, I would call it my go-to rum at home. I always have a bottle of it. And I like to drink it straight as it is. And I even like to drink that one on ice, a few ice cubes. Not in this weather we have right now, though, but
Yeah, of course.
in the summer with a bit of ice, I think it's really amazing like that as well. Cool. Anybody else wants to share a little bit?
Yes, me.
Otherwise, I'm going to fill more rum in your glasses.
Yes, me a little bit. When I, Joshua, when I first time tried Worthy Park Estate, it was 4 years ago, maybe. I don't remember now. I thought, okay, this is trend. This is powerful. Maybe not good enough for me, because in that time I liked some sweet rums, and everyone who asked me about some rum, and this guy, a woman, was from the whiskey industry. I told them, okay, try the Worthy Park. And I used this one rum to some of my tastings. And everyone, especially from the whiskey industry, told me, wow, this is nice rum. I didn't expect that. You know what I mean? And after these 3, maybe 4 years, when I really moved forward in the industry, I like now very, very powerful rums. Really, really high ester. You know that because we talk about that this year. And when I when I opened all these bottles again 2 weeks ago, first time, 2 weeks or maybe weeks ago, I thought, wow, it's so changed. It's totally different for me. That's why I wrote a post about my feelings, because I didn't remember that, because okay, I like that, but I didn't remember that I like it so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Park is for me when someone asks me about trip to Jamaica. This rum, it will be one of these rums with this person should start it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well,
next step.
Yeah. But I have a little bit similar because, well, Chris, you know me, I'm a rum geek myself, and I like the crazy shit.
Yeah.
High proof, all of that. But one thing that I've noticed is, I think probably within the last maybe 2 years, that after drinking, all of this high ester for quite a long time, then I came back and drank some of these more, well, simple is the wrong word, but let's just call it simple in this case, more simple, more easygoing rum. And I also found out that I actually missed it because I've been drinking too much of all of that crazy stuff that sometimes you forget what it is that you fell in love with rum. And some of the bottles that I'm drinking right now are 40-45%. And I'm really, really enjoying them. I even have one bottle of sweetened rum that I'm drinking right now, and that's actually one of the reasons I'm drinking that bottle is because of Pavel, who joined the tasting here. He chased me a few years ago about one of the bottles that we had done that we had put into a Pinot Noir red wine cask, and he was talking so highly about how him and his dad had been drinking that I brought a bottle more home of it for myself, and I started drinking it, and I was like, well, shit, Pavel and his father are right. This is outstanding rum.
I mean, out of, I think 300 bottles in that batch between me and my father, we had at least 5.
Good to hear, Pavel. But yeah, I had quite a few bottles of it as well after you told me about that, because I went back home after that and I was like, oh, shit, I'm going to find myself a glass. I poured it and I was like, this is really good. Not a complicated, it's an easygoing rum, but with a lot of flavor. And yeah, sometimes us rum geeks, we are always looking for the next thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes we should always just look right in front of us because we all have so many beautiful bottles standing around at the house that we should be drinking as well. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, guys, it's time for another rum, I think.
Yeah.
And we're gonna jump in and we're gonna pour 2 old limited editions that we did a couple of years ago. And we're gonna start with the Wethy Park Sherry. It's a bottle that was released 4 years ago, back in 2019. Distilled in 2013. It spent first 4 years in ex-bourbon barrels. Then it was moved, and half of it was put into ex-Oloroso sherry, and the other half into ex-Pedro Jimenez sherry. Then it was, blended again together and bottled at 57%. And if you look here in the background, you will actually see one of those cane tucks that I was talking about. This picture is from that exact day that I was explaining before. And then you get a good idea about as well how when it comes around the corners, it has to use the full road to actually turn. And in the background, this is actually also where you can see some of the view into the valley. It's quite a unique sight. To compare it with or to drink on the side, we're taking another one that was released at the same time, also in 2019. It is just a bit older, as it is distilled in 2008. This one spent 9 years in ex-bourbon, and then after that, it was moved into a ruby port pipe, which is a 500-liter cask. So this is actually a single cask. It was bottled at 56%, and of course, both of them are completely pure. There's no sugar. It's only very, very gently filtered. There's no caramel for color, nothing. So guys, get them filled in your glass. I'd recommend for both of these to, try them straight out, of course, when you pour them. But I would recommend to put them on the table, let them breathe, give them 5-10 minutes, let them get a little bit of air inside, because both of these rum will actually open up quite a bit more after they've been poured and get a little bit of oxidization. They get a little bit of that oxygen there. It's going to open them up more, and you're actually going to be able to taste the influence of port or the sherry casks even better. And I would say for both of them, what they're actually going to do to the rum is they're just in the back of the palate. They're going to add a few extra notes. And it's going to be notes of, dark fruit, like forest fruit, from where the sherry even will add a little bit of nuttiness as well. But give them a try, enjoy them. I'll jump back into the presentation and speak more about Wethy Park, and then we'll come back to the rum again in like 5-10 minutes, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. So, as we've been through the sugar farm, we've been through the sugar factory. Now we're coming to what is, we could say the most important thing, which is, of course, the distillery itself. This is the overview of the distillery, and you have, well, the main gate right here. In here, you have the actual distillery in this building with the fermentation tanks on this side and the actual still right here. And in these two halls are aging warehouses. This one is completely filled with barrels. This one is around half filled with barrels, where in this first part is also our bottling line, where all the bottles are, well, filled and bottled and shipped in the end. Now, once we
Is
have...
it all the like aging storage that you have, or just one of the facilities?
Say that again, Pablo, sorry?
Is it all the storage warehouses that you use for aging and Worthy Park, or is it just one of few facilities, just the one that's most near to the bottling?
Well, we use both of these for aging, but both of them are new buildings that was built with the distillery, if that's what you mean.
No, but like you don't like have another like bigger warehouse, I don't know, 5 kilometers away.
No. All the barrels are here, and in total there is about 10,000 barrels in storage right here. So Worthy Park is not a big distillery. We are still what I would call a small family-owned distillery. We're not a craft distillery. We are bigger than that. But if you compare it to, like, if you look at something like Appleton, which is based a couple of hours from us, they have in the range of 250,000 to 300,000 barrels. We have 10,000. So it's quite a difference. So in that sense, we are still quite a small distillery. We also only have one still. We have one pot still at the distillery, and that's it. If you go to Hamden, you'll see 5 pot stills next to each other. If you go to Appleton, you'll see even more.
Are you operating at 100% capacity of the still?
No, we're not. The still has more capacity that could be run. We need to make some investments in other parts of the distillery to get to full capacity as well. We need more storage space for fresh rum. So we need a little bit of more storage before we can run it at full capacity as well. But we don't need the full capacity either. We can keep up with our production. We can keep up with demand, and we still have enough as well to put down for aging for the future. But of course, our goal is to expand. And if I don't have good pictures of that, but if you ever go there or see pictures from the actual distillery hall, you can see that right next to the pot still, there is space already to put in a similar pot still right next to the other one.
Is there a time estimate when that would happen? Is like 3 years, 30 years?
No, not 100%. A lot of it actually depends on you. Drink more rum. Then we'll put in the new still to keep up. Don't worry.
I already drink as much as I can. I don't think I can make you bring another still.
I know you, Pavel. I know you. You might be at the limit, but I'm sure we are a couple of others who can drink a little bit more. No, but we need to remember that Worthy Park is Jamaican rum. And Jamaican rum is not what I would call commercial in Europe. Commercial is our diplomatico, our plantations, our Zacapa, all of that. This is what the majority of the people drink. And a good example is that if I bring like rum bar overproof to a masterclass, if I pour that to people without telling them what it is, 9 out of 10 people, they will spit it out and they will hate it because they don't understand it. But if I spend 5 minutes talking about it and explaining it, what it is, and give them an expectation of what they're going to drink, 7 or 8 people will actually enjoy it. They might not enjoy it enough to buy a bottle, but they will understand the product better. So what we need to do with Jamaican rum, in my opinion, is we need to do a lot more education. People need to understand what Jamaican rum is. And how do we do that? Well, we do it by tasting it. We do it by talking about it as we are doing tonight. And we do it by hopefully all of you guys that with the bottles you have at home of Jamaican rum, that your friends taste it, your families taste it when they come to visit. And then slowly but surely spread the news about why Jamaican rum, in our opinion, is the best in the world. But it's not done quickly. I remember we saw it a couple of years ago. I think it was 5 years ago that we had Jamaican rum in the Advent calendar that we make here at 1423, 24 days of rum. And I remember a lot of the feedback on one of the Jamaican rums was people poured it out their toilet or in the sink because they didn't understand it.
Yeah,
And that takes a little bit of time. In Jamaica, they wouldn't understand Millionario or Sacaba because that's something completely different from what they drink. But it's part of their culture. They grow up with it. We don't. We grow up with shitty sugar and other shitty things.
Although I just realized when someone asks what, well, like you said, commercial, when someone asks what is the rum for the whiskey drinker, everyone starts shouting Foursquare, but I guess Appleton and Worthy Park are kind of similarly viable choices.
Well, I would say both yes and no. I say Worthy Park Single Estate is a natural choice for me to bring out when you find a whiskey drinker. But it depends on the whiskey drinker, because I see plenty of whiskey drinkers that if you pour them something like Diplomatico, they'll drink it immediately and say, "Is this rum? Give me more," because they never knew that everybody loves sugar. But no, I completely agree. Worthy Park Single Estate, for a whiskey lover, it's the perfect rum to go up side by side with it, because it will give them some of that same mouthfeel with the dryness we spoke a little bit about earlier from the gold. It will give them that same feeling, but then they'll taste the rum flavors instead of the whiskey flavors.
I guess that's the task for all us keyboard warriors here when someone recommends like Foursquare is the only rum for the whiskey drinkers, that we should also mention Worthy Park Single Estate.
Yeah, I'd say Foursquare might be the perfect rum for the bourbon drinker instead. I think the flavors are much closer to that than that of a whiskey, where you can't find a rum that's close to a whiskey flavor. But if you wanted something, I'd go Jamaican straight away. Foursquare makes amazing rum, for sure. But it doesn't beat Worthy Park.
It's fun to hear what you're saying, Joshua, because very often when I have friends at my house, I'm known that I'm a rum lover. And very often I try to give them some degustation, so they will try some different tastes of rums. And very often we go through different battles, and
Yep.
I usually start with them with sweeter rums, because they are not experienced in these alcohols. That's also a good way for me to get rid of the battles I don't want to drink anymore.
Of course.
Later we go to the higher levels, and especially to Jamaica, and I tell them like, okay guys, so which one do you like the most? And they say, yeah, we like Diplomatico or other ones. And they shocked when I tell them that I like Jamaican rums, for example, and I tell them that this piece of shit in their mind is the thing I like the most.
I imagine, yeah. I had a group of friends, an old high school friends over some months ago, and I did a tasting for them as well, and they loved the sweetened rum. And then I put the single estate on the table, and I think 6 out of the 8 that we were, they hated. They didn't understand it. But the last 2, they fell in love, and they went out, both of them, and bought a bottle each. And those 2 guys were also the only guys who actually bought a bottle after the tasting. And I think that also shows the quality that we are drinking. But it is Jamaican rum is what Islay is for whiskey. That's Jamaican rum for the rum world. It's something that a lot of people can't just start drinking. It's something they need to learn to drink in some ways. Some of that part is education and understanding what it is they're drinking. and other parts is also just to keep drinking it.
Although I think like Jamaican rum is the better situation because in a Scotch drinker there are people who drink every possible Scotch for like 40 years and they still don't like peat, and like every rum lover kind of can be converted into Jamaican.
I agree. I completely agree. But sometimes it's this natural evolution. Like I always say at tastings as well, especially when it's filled with men, and we have plenty of guys here as well, is imagine that time when you had your first beer. You were sitting with your friends and you had your first beer. You were 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. Doesn't matter. You were sipping that first beer and you were all talking about how amazing this beer is. In reality, you fucking hated it. It tasted terrible, but you told everybody it was amazing because you wanted to be cool with your friends. Now, I remember that, and I love beer today. On a hot summer day, there's nothing better than a cold Pilsner. It's the same with red wine for many people, or coffee. The first time you taste it, you don't really like it. It's something that you need to learn to drink. And I think in some ways, Jamaican rums is a little bit the same. The first time you try it, you might not 100% understand it. Then you try it again. Then you try it again with a rum drinking friend who will explain you better and tell you a little bit more about it. And then you learn to appreciate it. And hopefully you end up like me or Chris or Patrick, and you fall in love with it and you can't get enough. You want to shower in it, want to swim in it. And can we just convert everybody to there? Then I promise you, we'll order the new still straight away and install it and start producing more rum.
I think actually if you try hard enough, I organized a lot of tasting when I intended to break resistance to rum. And I think there's more people who have inherent unbreakable resistance to beer than the ones for whom you cannot find the right rum to convince them. I myself like only a very tiny, very specific type of beer. I tried like 50 different types of beer that I don't like. So, and I know a lot of people who actually don't like beer. It's like minority, but still bigger than the amount of people who cannot be converted into rum.
I agree. We can convert everybody. And we will. We will. In the words of Richard Sheila Foursquare, in due course, we'll get there. For sure.
Yeah. I also have a friend who is a whiskey drinker. And sometimes we drink some fluids, we drink whiskey, we drink rums, and I give some rums to him to taste which rum is good for him. Yeah. And he tried a lot of rums with me, and the first rum I give him to taste, then he told me, "Oh, it's good rum."
Yeah.
It was Worthy Park Madeira finish. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, my friend tasted and thought, "Oh wow, it's good. It's very, very good. Show me the bottle. Show me the bottle. I have to buy it."
Amazing. That's really, really good to hear.
Yeah, and I'm also think that Worthy Park rums are close to the whiskey world. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. And you know, whiskey, it's old men in kilts, cold weather.
Yeah.
Rum is green. It's Jamaica. It's beautiful beaches. Which would you prefer?
But
I mean, as much as I agree with you. Sorry, continue.
It's something in the chemistry, I think, yeah? That the tastes are similar, yeah?
Definitely. What were you saying, Gary?
Must say I've never been to Jamaica yet, but hope to be there one day. I've been to Isla already. Yeah, there is a beauty to it. So on this, I have to disagree. I agree totally with you that Jamaica is the Isla of the rum world because of its specific or its love or hated approach. But yeah, when it comes to the atmosphere, I drink both whiskey and rum. I don't see. With Christoph, we have this joke, right? Because I think, Christoph, you had this tasting one time in which, and then the next door there was a whiskey tasting as well. And you said that, I should attend both. and we talked about the wife and the lover, right? And they should not meet. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, but I agree, Yannick. Scotland is beautiful as well. It is. And I was a whiskey drinker before I was a rum drinker. And I still, well, shit, I can see 2 bottles of whiskey right here in front of me. I still drink whiskey as well. I just love rum a little bit more.
what I give to rum, it's definitely more. There's more variety to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because of lack of regulations, and when you have rum from all over the world.
Yeah.
Well, Scotland is quite a tiny rock, right? So
It's true. It's true. But well, we produce whiskey in many countries across the world. There are quite a few whiskey distilleries here in Denmark as well. But I agree, the range of flavors in rum is greater than in whiskey. And it opens up for more people as well, in my opinion. You can draw in more people because you can always find a bottle of rum for them. And there are plenty of regulation within rum. It is, I would say, a little bit of a misconception that there's not enough rules in the rum industry, because there is quite a lot. And there are very country specific regulation as well. Like in Jamaica, there's a very specific law for how you can make rum.
But that's almost the only country. Jamaica and Martinique. Other countries kind of want to have GI, but they don't.
There are a lot of other countries that have laws for what it constitutes to make rum. Places like the Dominican Republic has a very specific set of laws as well. But yes, some of them allow the addition of sugar. But the problem, I think, is that Scotland was very good at starting the protection of the word whiskey and what constitutes a whiskey. And this is where I wouldn't say rum has failed, but this is what has become rum's problem. That rum is produced in so many different countries now, and so many countries have very large producers, and hence very large financial interest in it. That it's difficult to agree on regulation that would cover the world, so to say.
Especially when there are some companies that try to like sabotage the regulations because they like cognac too much.
Well, that is a discussion for another day. That one I'm not going to get into, not today anyway. But there is also the fact that, you know, when the UK came and wanted to make regulations for whiskey, well, Europe signed off straight away. The US signed off straight away, because UK is a very important part in the Western world, financially, military-wise, everything, historically. But when Jamaica wanted to register a GI in the EU, nobody cared, because our financial interests with Jamaica are not important. And there's a good chance that if they agree on Barbados about a GI, it might be the same problem, that they might be able to register it and make a GI for Barbados, but it's not sure that the European government or the US will actually approve it in the end. We don't know, because we don't have the same financial interest in these countries. They are not large trade partners. And that is also why that it's get more difficult to get the GIs and to get the regulation in place for some of these countries. And some of this it sounds terrible, and it is, but it's just the reality that some of this is actually just big politics and financial interests that sometimes overshadow what we want. But you know, the main part and the good part about going to tastings, going to classes, going to like what Chris is doing when he mixes up different bottles from different distilleries and does classes, or going to festivals, is that you get a chance to learn about what rum is. You get a better understanding about what is in the bottle, if it comes from this country or that country. So you can get the knowledge to make yourself better prepared for when you stand in the shop to actually choose a bottle. Now I know, and I can hear from several of you, you already know what you like, and you are geeks already. But for the general consumer, that is important. And I think there's a great example in Denmark right now of, I would say, people getting cheated, actually, because we would all expect if we go down to the shop and buy a bottle of Jamaican rum, that it's going to taste like what we're drinking today. It's going to be dry, so to say. There's a rum brand here in Denmark which states that it's produced from Jamaican rum, but it's sweet, sweet, sweet as hell. It's like drinking liquid syrup. I'll stay away from saying any names today, but it is terrible, and they market it as a rum directly. And they also say it's between 15 to 25 years old, and you can buy it for shit. Cheapest bottle is like 40 euros, and I'm looking at them. I know that is impossible.
Isn't it breaking the rules of EU regarding allowed amount of sugar, or they use some other tricks?
No, it is breaking the rules. And people are actually getting checked right now. They're getting checked in Denmark. The food and, well, I don't know how to translate it perfectly, but the food department of the government in Denmark is actually checking producers in Denmark right now. Producers of rum or bottlers of rum for sugar content and labeling laws. They came to my office and my warehouse and checked our bottle. And I heard that they went to several others as well.
That's cool that they have rum police in Denmark.
Well, it's not rum police. It's here. It falls under the food and health department. I think you would translate it. But yeah, they have to check up on these things, of course, because it's the law. And I hope they keep doing that, because then
it's good that someone cares.
We might be able to get rid of what we could call some of the bad apples of the bunch, or at least make sure that in the future they label their product in a correct way. Yeah. But guys, well, you might have already tried the rum by now. I know it had plenty of time to breathe. So let's jump back into it before we jump in to speak about the distillery, and tell me what you thought about the sherry and the port.
Joshua, I have to mention about one thing before you started. These two bottles, cherry and port cask, was the only one thing which I thought about, that maybe don't use this rum to this tasting because I already bought two last bottles from the Patrick.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't check are they available anywhere in Europe. I didn't check that, but
I don't know.
But yeah, when I called Patrick, I asked him about these two bottles. He told me, okay, we can do that, but remember we have two last bottles, one of each. So I told him, yeah, give it to me. We give it to me. Well, let's do that. So yeah, first thought.
Guys, also all credit to Chris that he shared it with us instead of hoarding it himself.
Well, I completely agree that Chris did exactly the right thing and made sure to buy them and share them here. So
yeah, so yeah, I'm happy with that. Really, I like them.
Same here. I have a few bottles of both here in my house, so you come by and visit me, we'll open another bottle and we'll drink it here. Cool. Well, guys, let's jump into the distillery, and after that we'll go through more questions and we can talk more about rum as well. So, speaking about distillation, so the general, I'm guessing with the amount of knowledge we have with the people here, we don't need to talk about how you make rum in general. Usually it's molasses, it's water, it's yeast. We mix those two things together. We leave it for 18 to 36 hours. It starts to create alcohol because the yeast will eat sugar and it'll turn into alcohol of about 5 to 8%. And then distill that and we get it. That is the basics. I think all of you know that. So we won't go into too much of that. We'll dig into more how we do it at Worthy Park. Most of our rum is produced from molasses. I say most of. Go back 2 years, then all of our rum was distilled from molasses. But because we have the sugar factory right next door, we started using cane juice as an experiment about 2 years ago. You've tried it, Chris. I know the cane juice. We've released some in Origins, and there will be some in the new Worthy Park Overproof, which will be a blend of both molasses and juice. But primarily still, we are molasses producer. Now, for our yeast at the distillery, we use 3 different kinds. We use a dry activated yeast, which is also called, you could call it commercial yeast. It's a yeast that you can buy yourself, if you know the name of it at least. You could go out and buy it from yeast producers. Then we use, which I would say is our primary yeast, is our isolated proprietary yeast. So this is a yeast we have developed ourselves from our sugar cane. And then finally, we use wild yeast. Now, wild yeast is something we also produce at the distillery, and we use this when we create our, specifically our mark called WPE, or Worthy Park Extra, which is our high ester rum. Now, these 4 wooden containers right here are what is called yeast propagators. This is actually where we create wild yeast. So in here is magic happening. Unlike distilleries like Long Pond or Hampden, where they both use dunder or muck or cane vinegar or acids to produce the high esters, then we produce them only with our wild yeast and